my dreams that won't come true, but don't pity me. Pity my heart that's gonna break. Pity my kiss that you won't take, but don't pity me.
From a couple of years on, things are real horrible here in New York, all over.
You're dealing with a lot of people that are maniacs today.
We're dealing with an individual who's very basic, who only knows two things: rip off or be ripped off.
Many of those who make good by being bad are nowhere to be seen these days.
I'd be afraid. Of course I'd be afraid. He's a sick guy. He'd kill anytime.
Yeah, but
there isn't anything on earth that I will hide from or back up from.
People seem not to understand the close relationship between organized crime and street crime. And certainly in dealing with street crime in his area or any other kind of crime, the uniform patrol.
Presenzano, shot 4 times, his throat cut. Presenzano was allegedly connected.
Yo, 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 what up, what up, what up? What's going on? Happy Thursday, everybody. Cheers. We got ourselves a Nectar hard seltzer Asian pear. Pretty good. Pretty freaking good, I must say. I must say it is pretty good. Who do we got here? Who do we got? The Grossman, Carmine S. What's going on? The Grossman Files. What is going on, buddy? A new trend in true crime is unknown victims. As many of you know, we're going to be discussing 2 new indictments at Rex Heuermann. These are 2 individuals whose cases were essentially cold because they can connect it to anybody. Much like the conversation I had with Mr. Manny Grossman on Wendy Savino's case. He appeared on my last live, which is up right now. So in 1 week, we have this. We have Wendy Savino. We have 3 individuals who law enforcement are acknowledging were the victims of, well, David Berkowitz for Savino and Rex Heuermann. At least they want to try to prove Rex Heuermann, which they will in a court of law, as Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney makes very clear when he speaks. So thank you for joining the live. And like I said, go check out Manny and me on the last live, the Wendy Savino case. That has been in the New York Post, NBC News, WPIX, and Manny Grossman is heavily involved in that. So kudos to my man Manny. OG Ruby Almighty, what is going on? Roro G, what is going on? Smokey P, we're going to get to that in a few minutes. Michelle, always great to see you. Thank you, BX. Who else is here? BX, what's up, buddy? Bruno67, what is going on? Smokey P, I hope you're well also. Edward Everett, what is going on, buddy? Who else is here? Rodney, what up? Corruption Connection, what is going on? Ni hao ma to my friend BTF Phoenix over here. Ni hao ma. Or ni hao. I'm doing well. I bet Rex's body count is well over 20. Yeah. And once again, not to keep talking about the stream I just did with Manny, but we spoke on that stream about the idea of like, well, you know, you did this. It's a good chance you did this, this, and this, and all these other things. So when you start looking at it, and that's with a lot of serial killer cases, you know, when they catch somebody for like 3 bodies, you start kind of wondering like, just 3? As sick as that sounds, you know. Although we are going to be talking about an individual briefly today that was that went down for just 2. We'll be talking about that character briefly, not too much. Smokey P, what is going on? Phoenix. Sally, how are you? Good to see you. All righty. So we're going to get to a bunch of stuff, and then I'm going to talk about some other stuff later, stuff about the channel, this and that. Let me take a sip real quick, and we'll get right into it. I think there will be so many more. Yeah, Virginia, Nevada, Jersey. Yeah, it's possible. quite possible. It's all going to come down to the DNA, and we're going to get into that. But I thought before we get into that, maybe we could. Hey, G78, my man in Ireland. Always a pleasure to have you, sir. I had to show up with this since you told me this LISK fascinates me. It is fascinating. It is fascinating. We're not even going to cover most of the case. You know, we're not going to go into the, you know, corruption and all this other nonsense, everything that went down. Although we could do a stream on that. I'd love to have the author of the James Burke book, Jimmy the King. I have to get his contact. I've seen he did an interview once, and it wasn't even like a huge channel. So I think I got a good shot. I'm going to try to hit him up, see if he can come on and discuss his book, Jimmy the King, which profiles the rise and fall of James Burke. And of course, there was some Gilgo discussion in that book as well. So before we get to our discussion today, let's get to know Rex a little bit. You guys let's get to know Rex a little bit.
Question. If you were a tool or an object to help you in your to bring your business to greater heights, what would it be?
That's an interesting question.
I know.
Because for what I do, we have to have so many tools in the toolbox.
Just one.
Just one.
Just one. Or an object. It doesn't have to be a tool. It can be an object.
You know what? Yeah. I know.
All right.
One of the things I learned from my father was furniture building.
Okay.
He was an aerospace engineer and built satellites. And
runs in the family, building things.
And built furniture at home. And I still build it in the same exact workshop.
So?
I have one tool that's pretty much used in almost every job. And it's actually a cabinet maker's hammer.
Oh, okay, a cabinet maker hammer. Okay.
It is persuasive enough when I need to persuade something.
Not someone.
Something. And it always yields excellent results. Yeah. And at the end of the project, whatever piece of furniture or what I'm working on, it always helps it come out beautifully.
Okay, great. So you would be kind of that kind of hammer for your business? That's what you're saying? If that doesn't exist, that's what you would be?
Sometimes I have to be the heavy framing hammer.
The heavy framing hammer.
Other times I'm the lightweight hammer just to nudge things along.
All right. I guess it's a hammer. We got it.
So for those of you who have never seen that, that was an interview done back, I believe it was 2020. I'm not sure. That is a French gentleman who runs some kind of architecture and I guess building some kind of, he works for some company. He has his own content. And Rex being, you know, a high profile architect out of Manhattan, a man who has worked with various real estate firms and a very intelligent man in his field, office in, you know, Midtown Manhattan. I mean, doing pretty good, you know. So he was interviewed for this YouTube channel. And oddly, when you type in Rex Heuermann, you know, that interview was like so many views. And I guess whoever owned it originally, I don't know if they took it down, but that's not even easy to find if you go on YouTube and you type in Rex Heuermann interview. The corporate press has pretty much took over massive amounts of pages of Rex Heuermann. So that's hard to find. I'll probably just link it to this video that is part of a larger interview. I see some of you saying he comes off as a creep or a weird. I don't know. Does he come off as a creep because he might be the Long Island serial killer? I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, he just seems like a jolly old nerd. Like he just seems like a nerdy guy who really likes his job. Just like a doofus, essentially. You know, he seems like a doofus to me. I wouldn't think, you know, I mean, listen, the interviewer is uncomfortable, nervous, laugh. Yeah, I mean, the interviewer himself was kind of a silly guy. You know, he would like, he's easily impressed, you know, laughing a lot. And he kind of does that throughout the interview. So, I mean, yeah, you see Ricky Bobby says, couldn't find it on YouTube. Yeah, I don't know why. a very dangerous doofus. Correct, indeed. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into it. This has started out well, right? This has started out well. So let's start getting into some of this stuff. And we're going to look at the superseding indictment that came out today. We're going to read through that. I have a little clip, Raymond Tierney speaking as well. We're going to get to that. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. So what we are discussing today is Rex Heuermann has been hit with 2 more homicides. Okay. There is the homicide of one Jessica Taylor, found out in Manorville in 2003. More remains found out on Ocean Parkway, I believe around 2011. Originally, most of her remains found out in 2003 out in Manorville. And we're going to be talking about the particulars of her death, what was found at the scene, and some of the other things that investigators have uncovered. Now, that one, for anybody that doesn't know, that one was kind of expected. The whole Manorville thing. Now, police were out in Manorville. Suffolk County Police were out there recently, and they were searching Manorville. They were searching the area. And then we hear, this indictment's coming. So they're like, all right, well, this is obviously connected. There is 2 individuals who they associate with Manorville that we know of, and that is Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack. Valerie Mack, formerly known as Jane Doe number 6, before her identity was uncovered, I believe in, I'm going to say 2020, I believe. She was Jane Doe number 6. So there was talks that maybe Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack would be a part of this indictment, and we would get both of the individuals, the Manorville ladies, whatever you want to call them, on this indictment. That seemed to be likely. We got Jessica Taylor. What did not seem likely was this: Sandra Costilla. That did not seem like it was going to happen, and we're going to be talking about her. She was found dead out in Long Island, almost in Southampton area, in 1993. Now, they're connecting that to Rex Heuermann through DNA, and we're going to be getting into the DNA, but realize what that means. Rex is arrested last year in 2023. If you guys remember, I went there live, and I filmed 90 minutes of evidence collection at his home. You guys can check that out on my channel. Shameless plug. You can check that out. And so what that means is that the timeline for Rex committing homicides, if he is in fact the LISK, the Long Island serial killer, has now been pushed back 30 years prior to his arrest. So that is tremendous. We're talking about potentially a 30-year spree of homicides, potentially more than that, potentially 35 years, 40 years. We don't know, but that is huge. And we're going to get into that. Paul Hart, what's going on, man? How are you? How's everything doing? Chris Archler, thanks. Good to see you. Pete D, back in the mix. What's going on, man? Great talking to you yesterday. I seen a guy in here several months back saying that he thinks Rex may have had accomplices, one being a priest. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to get into that stuff. That sounds crazy. So I want to go back in time, though. I want to go back in time to Sandra Costilla's homicide in 1993. I'm going to talk briefly about an individual that was once connected to this homicide, but was ultimately cleared in her homicide. And that individual is a man by the name of John Bitroff, a Long Island carpenter who was sentenced to 50 years in prison in 2017 for 2 homicides. Forgive me. Let me get rid of that banner. For 2 homicides. He was sentenced in 2016. Those homicides being the homicides of Colleen McNamee and Rita Beinlich. Colleen is up top. Rita is at the bottom. Now, at the time, they had, and I'll show you the articles from the time. At the time, they had connected these 2 homicides with the homicide of Sandra Costilla. Once again, there is John Bitroff. Here is Sandra Costilla once again. So let's look at this. This is from November of 1993. Police ID dead woman. The body of a partly clothed woman found in a wooded area of Long Island Saturday has been identified as that of Sandra Costilla, 28, of Queens. But police yesterday said they need help finding her family and acquaintances to learn more about her. Police said Costilla's last known address was in Gates Avenue and Ridgewood, but that information is a year old. So those are the original reports from 1993 about the death of Sandra Costilla. Once more, they are connecting that murder over 30 years later to Mr. Rex Heuermann, suspected Long Island serial killer. And like I said, it's a bit of a surprise. I mean, not that, listen, if you start really looking into this stuff, you'll see her name. Oh, did Rex do this one? But it's not necessarily a name that is often associated with Rex when you look at, like, we'll talk about like the Gilgo 10. We know the Gilgo 4, but there's like 10 or 11 more that we'll talk about too. Okay. Now I want to go back to May of 1994, and this is around that time when she is murdered. This is an article. 3 women whose nude bodies were found in a wooded area of Long Island may have been killed by the same person, police said yesterday. Cops said the slayings were sexually motivated and that 2 of them are definitely linked. So they definitely linked 2 of them at this time. 2 of the victims, Colleen McNamee and Rita Bainlick, which we mentioned before, had prior arrests for prostitution. This is a common theme, of course. I'm going to just skip to the bottom. McNamee and Bainlick, both of Suffolk, were killed by blunt force injuries to the head. Costia, who they mentioned in the article, had no recent arrest for prostitution, and she was strangled. Police, acting on an anonymous tip, found McNamee's body January 20th in a wooded area in Shirley, Long Island. And Bainlick, a mother of a 12-year-old boy, was found by passerbys November 12th under a pile of leaves. So 1 going in 94 and 2 at the end of the year, one of those being the homicide that Rex Heuermann is now being charged with. Let me get rid of this. So, I like to show you guys things to kind of give you a picture of exactly the history of this and what was going on at the time. And as I just mentioned, the 2 of the women that were linked at that time, well, here is your man right here, John Bittroff, charged with those 2. They could not connect the murder of Sandra Costia to him. They have now connected it to Rex Heuermann. So once again, bit of a surprise. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I believe they thought that it was going to be Jessica Taylor alone, Valerie Mack alone, or perhaps both of them. In the press conference today, Raymond Tierney out in Suffolk County, a reporter had asked him if it was safe to assume that Valerie Mack is, he's a suspect in that homicide. And I believe Raymond Tierney said, yeah, that would be safe to assume. So you guys, we could probably expect to maybe see that one being added at some point. But we'll just have to sit back and wait. And we're going to talk about Jessica Taylor in a little bit. Let me see the comments here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought of. Big Pin Fitness. What's up, buddy? I don't know if I said hi to you. How are you? How old was Rex in 93? So Rex in 1993 would have been in his 30s, I believe. I believe he is 61 years old. 61. Late 20s, early 30s, I would say. Young man. A young man. Okay. Hey, Frankie Batts, how are you, man? Good to see you, buddy. So we got Sandra Costia out of the way, and that's not the last we're going to be speaking of her, because like I said, we're going to be looking at the superseding indictment that came out today. Give me a second, guys. Okay. Telling my loved one where her dinner was. That's what I was doing. I apologize for that. Okay, so Jessica Taylor. Who is Jessica Taylor? As I mentioned before, Jessica Taylor was originally found out in Manorville in 2003. More parts found later in 2011. So let's go into this is an article from in 2003. Jessica Taylor worked as a prostitute all over the East Coast and had been arrested multiple times in New York City on a variety of charges, police records show. She was just 20 years old, had a tattoo on her back, wore hoop earrings, had moved into Washington, D.C. after her release from Rikers Island jail, but then she returned. On July 26, 2003, days after she was seen working as a prostitute on the streets near Port Authority Bus Terminal in Manhattan, who works in Midtown Manhattan, not far from Port Authority Bus, Rex Heuermann. Her new torso was found in the woods in Manorville near the Long Island Expressway. A woman walking her dog came across Taylor's butchered body under a pile of branches. Police said she had been dumped about a week before. Suffolk District Attorney Thomas Spada said yesterday that a woman's head, hands, and forearm discovered March 29th in the brush along Ocean Parkway, about a mile east of where the original Gilgo victims were believed belonged to Taylor. So 2003 and then 2011, once again. Then it goes into more of her criminal record. We don't have to get into that. She's only 20 years old. Of course, it's a terrible story. Yeah, I mean, geez. So let's go back to 2011. At that time, multiple monsters. So at the time, there, look at it says there, 3 separate murderers account for bodies dumped on beach in Long Island. Now we know John Bittroff was never charged with any of these over here. So at the time, they thought there was 3. So what do we see? We see Maureen Brainerd Barnes, December 13th, 2010. Melissa Bartholomew, December 11th, 2010. Amber Lynn Costello, December 13th, 2010. Megan Waterman, found December 13th, 2010. And then it goes into the other victims. Now, if those names sound familiar to you, well, they are what's known as the Gilgo 4. And they are pictured right there. Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amber Lynn Costello, and Maureen Brainerd Barnes. And this is all stemming from the death of Shanann Gilbert, who is not being connected to Rex Heuermann. That's another story in itself. But upon looking for her, ultimately finding her out on Oak Beach, they started discovering all of these bodies in 2010 and 2011. And so this is kind of how this whole thing jumped off. I'm not going to get into the full history. I think many of you know. I really want to talk about the new stuff that's going on. But for anyone that doesn't know, these are the Gilgo 4. Rex Heuermann has been indicted for all 4 of these homicides. Once again, today, there is 2 more added to that list. Sandra Costilla and Jessica Taylor. Okay? So I'm going to look at the comments, and then we are going to, I hope this is clear, I'm going to get into today's indictment. We can get into it. I was wondering how we lured these women. They were all, all working girls, as you put it. Yeah. Scott H., what's going on? Good to see you. Donna T., good to see you. How are you? How are you? Yeah, I believe. Anyone else? Hey, Joey Frakes, what's going on? I wonder if the weight of all the evidence and everything will cause him to confess. So far, no. So far, absolutely not. What do you have for dinner? They are chicken sandwiches, if you're talking to me. I didn't eat yet, though. I'll eat later. I don't like to eat before I come on here because then I feel like fucking bloated and stuff. So let's get to this indictment. You guys ready? I hope you're ready. This is long. I got to make my screen bigger. Okay. On July 14th, 2023, Rex A. Heuermann was charged by a grand jury with the following 6 counts. Murder in the first degree, murder in the first degree, murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree. So this is in relation to the Gilgo 4. And this is, okay, today, defendant Rex Heuermann stands before this court charged by a grand jury. Another superseding indictment, which incorporates each and every one of the above counts as well. So bringing the number to 6. Okay. Murder in the second degree, violent felony, Class A1 violent felony for the death of Jessica Taylor on or about July 21st to July 26, 2003. Murder in the second degree in violation of New York State Penal Law Section 125.25. A Class A1 violent felony for the death of Sandra Costilla on or about and between November 19th to 20th, 1993. Once again, pushing Rex's timeline 30 years before he was arrested. Okay. Initial arraignment. On July 14th, 2023, the Honorable Richard Ambrose ordered defendant Rex Heuermann be remanded without bail. Okay, so this is just kind of... so let's go into the discovery right here of the human remains of Jessica Taylor. If anybody doesn't like, I guess I have to give trigger warnings. If anyone doesn't like stuff like this gets pretty graphic. Just letting you know. You know. The 2003 and 2011 discovery of the human remains of Jessica Taylor on or about July 26, I keep wanting to say 20. On or about July 26, 2003, an individual whose identity is known to law enforcement, witness 1, was walking with his hard dog just west of Halsey Manor Road, Manorville, Suffolk County, New York. At the time, witness observed what appeared to be human remains, which prompted her to call the police. So Suffolk County Police Department arrived. Miss Taylor was found lying on her back with her legs bent underneath her. Notably, the victim was decapitated, and both of Miss Taylor's arms had been severed from her body below her elbows. Moreover, a tattoo on the victim's torso had been severely obliterated by a sharp object. Investigators believe the mutilation of the victim's tattoos, decapitation of her head, and dismemberment of Miss Taylor's arms were acts perpetrated by Rex A. Heuermann. The identification of the victim via facial recognition, fingerprints, and/or tattoo identification. During the initial investigation in Manorville in 2003, the victim's head, arms, and hands were not found at the scene, and their location remained unknown. However, on March 29, 2011, Miss Taylor's skull, hands, and forearm were discovered along Ocean Parkway, just east of Gilgo Beach, Suffolk County, New York. Notably, Miss Taylor's remains were located on the same side of the road where Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Emma Costello were found. And you can see it right there. It says the Gilgo 4, which Rex has already been indicted for. They were found just several months prior in December 2010. Each of the Gilgo 4 victims, as well as the skull, hands, and forearm of Miss Taylor, were recovered on the same side of the road at a depth within 50 feet from the edge of the parkway. Furthermore, Taylor's remains were located less than a mile from where the Gilgo 4 were discovered. Okay, so you see this is the aerial view of the discoveries. And it says that Jessica Taylor utilized her cell phone to speak to her mother on July 21st, 2003 at about 8:41 p.m. Based on witness interviews and an analysis of telephone records, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learned that the two spoke for approximately 7 minutes. During that call, Miss Taylor had arranged to visit her mother on July 25th in Poughkeepsie for her birthday. Less than 2 hours, at approximately 10:22, the Taylor phone placed an outgoing call which lasted approximately 2 minutes. Therefore, the Taylor phone records reveal no further outgoing calls or incoming calls. Then it says that she failed to arrive at Poughkeepsie residence. Miss Taylor's mother identified law enforcement. Now, this is important. At the time of Miss Taylor's disappearance, Rex Heuermann worked in the same vicinity as Miss Taylor, where she was known to street walk or be a sex worker. He worked in the same vicinity, as I mentioned before. Records seized during the execution of prior search warrants reveal Heuermann was in fact present in Midtown Manhattan on July 21st, 2003, the same date Mrs. Taylor disappeared. On July 26, 2003, and in the days thereafter, members of the Suffolk County Police Department canvassed the area around Halsey Manor Road, Manorville, in the vicinity of where Miss Taylor's remains have been found. And it goes into the wooded area. 13 hours before witness one's 9/11 call, notably, the investigation to date has established that defendant Heuermann. Okay. So let's go back. As a result, investigators spoke to a witness who had on July 25th, 2023, approximately 10:30 p.m., observed a dark-colored Chevrolet pickup truck backed into the same wooded area where Miss Taylor's body was later found. So they see this pickup truck there. That's what the witness said. Based upon their investigation, law enforcement determined that these observations would have occurred approximately 13 hours before witnesses' 911 call. Notably, the investigation to date has established that defendant Heuermann purchased the 2002 dark-colored Chevrolet Avalanche pickup truck on or about March 22nd, 2002, so about a little over a year before this happens, from Ramp Chevrolet in Port Jefferson Station, New York. Accordingly, on July 25th, 2003 at 10:30 p.m., defendant Heuermann would have been in possession of a vehicle matching the description that was seen by the person over there. Now, this is going to get interesting again, because you got to understand what this indictment is going into is basically not only like forensics, or we think of forensics like human body parts and DNA, but computer forensics. This is what they're going back to find all this stuff, because Mr. Rex thought he deleted all the shit, but the latest technology says nothing's ever deleted. Let me take a sip. Check this out. A forensic analysis of Rex A. Heuermann's digital devices also revealed the following: that on or about July 28th, 2003, Rex Heuermann accessed a Newsday article entitled "Cops Seek Help in IDing Manorville Body" regarding discovery of Miss Taylor's human remains. That online activity was subsequently deleted. And on or about July 29th, 2003, Rex Heuermann conducted an internet search for a new Chevrolet Avalanche, despite his 2002 Avalanche being just over 1 year old. And we're going to see the picture too. The analysis further shows Heuermann also attempted to delete this search where he was searching for a new vehicle. And this is some information here in regards to his searches. And this is his vehicle. Finally, while the make and the model of the vehicle Heuermann searched for is the same as his 2002 vehicle, Chevrolet Avalanche, the exterior color was different, arrival blue, as well as another in Summit White, which are significantly brighter exterior paint offerings by Chevrolet when compared to Heuermann's dark green Avalanche. So we see that he's trying to change his vehicle at that time. We see that he is accessing articles in relations to the death of Jessica Taylor, the human remains found out in Manorville, the 20-year-old woman who was taken apart by what law enforcement believe to be Rex Heuermann. All right, so now we're going to get into the hairs. Hairs recovered from the remains of Jessica Taylor. During the course of this investigation, Miss Taylor's body was examined by a forensic scientist with the Suffolk County Crime Laboratory, which revealed that Miss Taylor had been decapitated, dismembered at her arms below her elbows, and revealed irregular disruption of the victim's nipples and the obliteration of her tattoo. During the examination of Miss Taylor's body, a male human hair was found, specifically from a surgical drape that had been underneath the victim. A subsequent examination of the male hair underneath Taylor led to the determination that it was a human head hair with a Caucasian European characteristic. However, if it was, based on the DNA testing capabilities at the SCCL, unsuitable for further DNA testing at that time. But on or about August 21st, 2023, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the male hair underneath Taylor to an outside forensic laboratory. Now, this laboratory specializes in forensic mitochondrial analysis. On or about February 1st, 2024, Forensic Laboratory 2 issued a report concluding that the mitochondrial DNA profile developed from the male hair underneath Taylor and the profile developed from the defendant's buccal swab are the same, specifically at a rate that would, as per the EMPOP database, exclude 99.96% of North American populations as the contributor of said hair recovered underneath the decapitated and dismembered remains of Jessica Taylor. So they're saying there's a 99.96 chance that this would exclude everybody from the population, that it would have to be Rex, somebody, a son of his, somebody that close to him, or in fact, his. Okay. This is where it gets really interesting too. On or about March 8th, 2024, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force brought a cutting of the male hair underneath Taylor and a DNA extract of Rex Heuermann's buccal swab to another independent laboratory. They apply a DNA technique and direct genome sequencing in difficult to solve forensic casework and the identification of human remains. So another reason why I'm reading this stuff to you guys, I know this is long-winded, but this is what we have to look forward for in technology. And for people out there who are hoping that one day, you know, the cold case of their loved one may be solved, or, you know, this gives hope to people because look what we're seeing here, you know. So, you know, stay hopeful that, you know, more people are going to be going down for things that they think they got away with. So let's go back to this lab here, and I'm going to go kick it up to Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney. We're going to hear from him in a second. I'm going to play a clip. We're not actually going to hear from him. I wish. Maybe someday. But on or about April 29th, 2024, Forensic Laboratory 1 issued a report indicating it had developed a nuclear DNA profile for not only the male hair underneath Taylor, but also for Rex A. Heuermann's buccal swab. Forensic Lab 1 was then able to conduct a one-on-one autosomal nuclear DNA comparison between said profile to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file, which resulted in a conclusion that the DNA profile generated from the male hair underneath Taylor is 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd times more likely to come from a person genetically identical to Rex Heuermann's SNP genotype file than from an unrelated individual. Let me read that again. 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd power. What does that mean? All right. Well, I have a clip where Raymond Tierney is. I'm going to remove this from the screen for 1 second. We're going to get back to it. Let's listen to Raymond Tierney.
Brought to the mitochondrial testing lab for mitochondrial DNA analysis, and was able to. The results of that was able to exclude 99.96% of the population, but not the Rex Heuermann, the defendant. Then again, later in 2024, we brought to a second lab for nuclear DNA testing. And once again, the result was the defendant could not be excluded as the donor of that hair, and it's 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd power more likely that it came to, that it matched the defendant or someone matching the defendant's DNA profile than a member of the population at large. And that number, just so it's 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd power. So what you do is you take that 1.837 and you move that decimal point over 63 places and add zeros. That's the number. That number doesn't exist. It's times 10 to the 600
again.
The defendant's DNA profile than a member of the population at large. And that number, just so it's 1.837 times 10 to the 603rd power. So what you do is you take that 1.837 and you move that decimal point over 63 places and add zeros. That's the number. That number doesn't exist. It's so big.
That number doesn't exist. It's so big. So I thought it was important to play that so Raymond Tierney could break that down for you, just like somebody had to break down for him, I'm pretty sure. He's not a mathematician or anything of the sort, or a forensic DNA genius. Manny, I'm going to try to do that. I don't know. See, I have this through the StreamYard, so I'm not sure if it's going to let me plus my screen. Let me see. Let me see if I can. Control plus. Yeah, you see the problem. It only lets me do it so much because it's through the StreamYard Google slide thingy. And StreamYard doesn't let me do it. So I apologize if everybody can't read along, if you're getting sick of freaking hearing me. I'll send this to anybody that wants it. It's available. It's out there. I have it on file. I'll send it to you guys. So you guys got that whole thing as far as the DNA. Now, another thing that has been going on, let me just lower this here. Another thing that has been going on with this is that they started noticing a trend, investigators, and the trend that investigators were noticing was basically that every time Rex Heuermann's family would go out of town, Rex was pretty active. At least that's what they have been able to prove. Who the hell is named Rex anyway? You know what, Milsurp Garage? That's a good question. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I should, do better. I should do better, but I apologize. But good point. I gotta probably put these files somewhere else on the computer outside so we could zoom in on them. So now we're going to get into what they were saying as far as where. So Heuermann's family travel in relation to the disappearance of Jessica Taylor. As a part of the ongoing investigation, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has also established that Heuermann's wife and children were out of state at the time of Miss Taylor's disappearance, similar to the other indictments as well, if you guys remember any of that. Like it says here, a consistent theme attributed to the defendant for each of the charged homicides. So every single homicide he's been charged with, somehow his family is out of town. Interesting, isn't it? Specifically in 2002-2003, defendant Heuermann's daughter, Victoria, was a kindergarten student at the McKellen Elementary School located in Massapequa, New York. At the time, Victoria was classmates with the individual whose identity is only known to law enforcement. So what they're saying is at the time that these happened, their family were in Jefferson. His family was in Jeffersonville, Vermont, I believe. And you're going to see these are all the phone calls to Jeffersonville here. So this is Rex Heuermann's AT&T, and these are the direct dialed calls. So you see July 22nd, July 22nd, July 26th, July 22nd. He's making all of these calls to where his family is. Here's more. He's making all these calls to where his family is away on vacation. Here is more. So let's end it. Based on the foregoing, the investigation, the data is clearly established defendant Heuermann's wife and children were indeed located out of state. So we got through Jessica Taylor. We're going to get to Sandra Costilla. Let me just look at some of the comments. Let me see what's going on in the comment section. Tick, tick, boom. There was Ken Rex McElroy. I'm not sure I'm familiar with So was his house the crime scene? No, they have not found any indication of his house being the crime scene, Phoenix. All of these bodies were found out in Long Island, most of them on Gilgo Beach, some on Manorville, some on Fire Island. As a matter of fact, let's take a break from reading this. Let's do another a bit of a LISK recap for everybody. I'm going to share the screen for everybody, and we're going to go into this is a website that was from a podcast, but they laid it out nicely. It's very formatted, so I didn't have to do it myself. So this is official victims, and once you see those 4 up there. He's been charged with all 4 of those. You see Maureen Brainerd Barnes of Norwich, Connecticut, last seen on July 9th, 2007, traveling to New York. So these are the Gilgo 4, right? Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, Melissa Bartholomew, Amberlynn Costello. Okay. Now we have the other ones. Jessica Taylor, there she is. Rex has just been charged with her homicide. She was found out in Manorville. Now, Valerie Mack, formerly Jane Doe number 6, this is a big question now. Is she going to be the next one that they indict him for? Listen, Raymond Tierney seems to think so, even though he didn't specifically say that. But I would say, if I had to bet, ladies and gentlemen, I would say before the end of the summer, I think that it's a good chance that he's going to get hit with this Valerie Mack homicide. I don't know how. I guess it has to be through DNA, but I think logic tells us this. Valerie Mack, like I said, formerly known as Jane Doe 6, Valerie Mack 24 of Port Republic, New Jersey, was last seen in the spring of 2000. Once known only as Jane Doe 6, her partial remains were first discovered in Manorville, New York in November 2000, and later on Gilgo Beach in April 2011. She was identified using genetic genealogy in May of 2020, as I mentioned earlier. Now we have Jane Doe number 7. The remains of Jane Doe number 7, as called Fire Island Jane Doe, were recovered near Tobay Beach in April 2011. These remains were linked by DNA testing to a set of remains found on Fire Island in April of 1996. That would be 3 years after the Castillo incident, which he is charged with. Now, on this website, they have not identified Jane Doe number 7, but if you guys know a little bit about this case, last year in August, Jane Doe number 7 was identified. She was identified as Karen Vergata, and we have pictures of her. You guys can look it up. Apologize that I don't have one now. Karen Vergata has been named as Jane Doe number 7. So will they tie Karen Vergata to Rex? Quite possibly. Quite possibly. Now that's 1996. John Doe was discovered on Gilgo Beach in April 2000. He was an Asian male who died from blunt force trauma to the face. According to investigators, he likely worked as an escort and was found wearing women's clothing. He was between 17 and 23 years of age, 5'6" in height, and missing 4 teeth. He had been dead for between 5 and 10 years. Another Gilgo Beach homicide. Now we can't think of at one point in time it was all this whole thing where it's like, all these women, were from when everything started being found, right? Out there, all most of these are like from the early 2000s and this and that. But now we know Rex Heuermann is tied to a murder that is 30 years old at this point. So all these dates mean nothing. 1996, that means nothing in this case anymore, because we know that police believe he was doing it for at least 30 years. Then we have Jane Doe number 3. She's called Peaches because of the tattoo. She was a young African-American female found in Lakeview, New York. Then we have Baby Doe, the skeletal remains of Baby Doe, a female toddler between 16 and 24 months, discovered on Gilgo Beach in April 2011. So there's even a baby involved in this for those of you who do not know. I'm going to stop sharing that. What do you guys think of all that? Shannon Gilbert's death is a real mystery. She ran from a house in Oak Beach screaming for help. Yeah, it is a mystery. And, I don't know what to make of that one. I don't know. I don't know what to make of Shannon Gilbert. I heard her, for those of you who don't know, Shannon Gilbert is the one that kind of unintentionally set off this whole thing of the Gilgo Beach killer when she, when they were looking for her and they found her dead. Now, they released her phone call that she was making to the police at that time. They released that, I believe, a couple of years back. Finally, they let the public hear it. And it's kind of frustrating to listen to. She at times keeps saying the same thing to the police. I don't know. It's kind of, I hate to say it because, she lost her life. But it's not a fun listen to hear that call for various reasons. She's telling the cops that she needs help, but she keeps saying the same thing. She keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again on the call. She's not really giving any information on the call. At one point, I believe they chalked it up to like she just died out there in the elements or whatever, because she ran from a house and then she died not long after. So for Rex Heuermann to do that, he would have happened to have just been hanging out there. So listen, I don't know if Rex is responsible for that murder. I can't say. It doesn't look as clear cut as some of these other things, the Shanann Gilbert situation. The sad thing about the Shanann Gilbert situation is that, after she passed away and, she was killed out there and the case got some notoriety, her mother was on television a lot, and her sister would sometimes accompany the mother on TV as well. And her sister went on to kill her mother. Her sister is currently in some kind of psychiatric facility, probably for life or a very long time, because she killed her mother. Yeah. So Shanann Gilbert is murdered out there in Long Island, possibly. And years later, her mother, who you can see on the news, there's plenty of interviews with her and her sister. Yeah, her sister ended up killing her mother. An unbelievable story. That I don't think many people talk about that. Maybe they don't want to. It's not a good thing to speak about, I guess. I don't know, but it's very tragic. That whole family's been essentially destroyed. Yeah. Yep. And I believe they lived upstate, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody knows that. I'm pretty sure they lived upstate. Yeah. So let me present this back to the stage because we have to get to Sandra Castilla. And let me just get rid of that comment there. Yeah, upstate. Yes, so Rose said Marie Gilbert was stabbed to death in her home by her daughter in upstate New York. Yes. Yep. I was right. Upstate. Yeah. Just a complete nightmare all around. The 1993 discovery of the human remains of Sandra Castilla. On or about November 20th, 1993, two individuals, while hunting in a wooded area of Southampton in the vicinity of 50 Old Fish Cove Road, North Sea, Suffolk County, New York, discovered the remains of Sandra Castilla. Date of birth, 8/25/65. So she would have been, 93? She would have been 28 years old. Yeah, there it says there. I'm doing the math. The next sentence says it. The victim, who was 28 years old at the time, was lying on her back with her arms outstretched over her head, with her uncovered legs spread apart. The victim's shirt had been pulled over her torso and head, exposing the victim's breast. The victim had numerous sharp force injuries to the inter alia, her face, torso, breasts, left thigh, and vaginal areas. So vaginal mutilation, breast mutilation. Sick. Mrs. Castilla was a native of Trinidad and Tobago, but had been living in New York prior to her disappearance and her murder. Hairs recovered from the remains of Sandra Castilla. So once again, here we go with the hairs that are being tested once again. And I'm going to go through this. I'm going to skip through it. Once again, 99.96% of the North American population can be excluded as a contributor of the male hair on Castilla. Defendant Heuermann cannot be excluded as the contributor of the hair that was found. And I'm going to go back up to the top because it mentions the John Biltroff situation, which I've spoken about when we start this. In 2014, well before the identification of Rex Heuermann as a suspect in Miss Castilla's murder, the hairs on Castilla were sent to Forensic Laboratory 2, which were able to develop a unique mitochondrial DNA profile. And basically, it says at that point, they ruled out John Biltroff. At that point, they ruled out John Biltroff, who I mentioned earlier, who was originally a suspect. He went away in 2000, as this is here. Colleen McNamee and Rita Beinlich. He went away for those murders in 2017. He went away for 50 years, but he was a suspect in that murder simply because they all happened kind of at the same time, and law enforcement were really trying to tie them together. But as you see there, Biltroff was ruled out. But you know what? Now that we're speaking, because there's numerous bodies found out there in Long Island. I mean, not even the Go-Go stuff. I mean, when you start looking into this stuff, there's been sex workers and bodies all over Long Island. And with this mitochondrial DNA and all these things, like we started off the show, like Manny mentioned, and we mentioned when you have like someone who kills sex workers, like I look at a guy like John Bitroff, right? I look at this guy, right? He went away for killing 2 sex workers, and he was sentenced to 15 years in 2017. You mean to tell me? I mean, I hate to say it like this, but you mean to tell me he only killed 2? He only had the urge in all of his life, because he was caught many years later. Look at him. In all of his life, he just had the urge 2 times to kill sex workers. I just felt like trying it a couple times. To me, that doesn't compute. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's another thing to look at going forward in the years to come. Will John Bitroff be hit with more bodies? Because that's something that's, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. Oh my God, this guy's a fucking demon. I can't even listen to the full story. Yeah, Dana. And like I said before I read this, I told everybody that this is going to be very graphic, reading this indictment. But, it paints a picture of the evil in society and the people that are walking around. Rex Heuermann was walking around, what are we in? Less than a year ago. Rex Heuermann was walking the street. When was he arrested? July of 2023, I believe. Yeah. So this time last year, Rex Heuermann was riding the train from Manhattan. He was on the Long Island Railroad going home. He was working in Midtown Manhattan, doing interviews, taking the railroad home to Massapequa, living it up. You never know, ladies and gentlemen. So once again, we see the 99.6% of the hairs found on her are going to match to Rex Heuermann. And then we get into that more of those crazy numbers, like to the 206th power that we were speaking about earlier. Once again, that other lab, they're saying 99.98%. So this is even hard. This is even a little higher than the other one. And then on the bottom, you see this 4.347 times 10 to the 332 power times more likely to have come from a person genetically identified to Rex Heuermann S&P genotype file. And like Raymond Tierney said, basically a number so large, the number doesn't even exist. I mean, I guess technically it exists. I'm sure somebody can find it. Okay. So we got through all that DNA, basically the same MO as the Jessica Taylor situation with the DNA. They have such overpowering evidence, mitochondrial DNA, from numerous laboratories. If you notice, they're not saying, oh, this one laboratory. No, they have their own labs. They have lab 2. They have lab 3, independent laboratories, throughout the country, right? Covering all their bases. Okay. So over here, it says the chart below summarizes the results from Forensic Laboratory 1 and Forensic Laboratory 2. So let's look at this chart. Okay, so Sandra Costilla, 99.6% of North American population can be excluded. Sandra Costilla from the other, so what is this? These are S&P DNA results. This is witness 3, Sandra Costilla, designation of bail, approximate location of hair recovery, victim's right arm. So these are all the, in every situation where they have this hair, they are close to 100% match, basically. And as you can see down here, Asa Ellerup's name comes up because they even found his wife's hair on burlaps as well. Not that she was involved, but women's hair, it gets everywhere. Okay, so there's another thing that we're going to be looking at here. Now, the law enforcement is referring to where Rex was living in 1993 as the target residence. Now, he's also at this time living with a woman at this residence, and one time his mother apparently at this residence, and they're calling this the target residence, okay? Heuermann's unfettered access to target residence during the disappearance of Sandra Castillo. As noted, Supra, based on post-arrest interviews with witnesses, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has learned that witness 3 and defendant Heuermann began living together at target residence in 1991. So this is a woman that Rex was intimately involved with. In September of 1993, approximately 2 months before Ms. Costilla's disappearance and murder, witness 3 moved out of the residence. Prior to witness 3 leaving the residence, Heuermann's mother had moved out of target residence. Based on the foregoing, neither Heuermann's mother nor witness 3 were living at the target residence during the time Sandra Castilla's murder. Accordingly, the murders of all 4 charged victims and now the murders of Miss Taylor and Castillo occurred at times when defendant Heuermann would have had unfettered time to execute his plans for each victim. So they're saying, much like his family's out of town, for the Gilgo 4 and for Jessica Taylor. Rex is on his own at this time period. He's no longer living with witness 1, who I believe is, I think, a girlfriend or some kind of live-in, a girlfriend, someone he's intimate with, and his mother. So he's alone at this time. These people are gone. He's on his own, right? Okay. Now I'm going to get into digital evidence, guys, and this is where it's going to get nasty again. We're going to, this is exciting stuff to look at this stuff. Manny, stick around because we're going to get into the digital evidence and some of the sick stuff too. Heuermann is what the FBI calls a sexual sadist, organized serial killer. What they aren't saying is a signature, something that they do that doesn't contribute to the murder, but a fetish. Yeah, so we're going to get into somewhat that. The scammer from a Netflix doc was caught because of pizza. The scammer from a Netflix doc? I don't know, but that's how Rex Heuermann was caught. They followed him and he threw out a pizza box and he didn't eat the crusts. Fucking guy. And they got DNA off that. Pizza boy. This sick fuck Heuermann says to erase pics as part of the plan. That means he photographed these killings. It's quite possible. He had tons of electronics. Yep. Technology is killing the serial killer. Google is a rat bastard. Yeah. That's who it was. The vegan restaurant. The vegan restaurant. The vegan race. Oh, yeah. Tony Pizza, the homeless guy. He's on YouTube too. He tried to get on here one day. Tony Boy, you paying attention? Pete G, they knew it was him, just never had legal proof. Calia went into effect in 94. Law enforcement was working on it long before that. They didn't know. What are you talking about? You talking about Heuermann? They had no idea it was Heuermann. They had no idea it was Heuermann until around late 2002, I believe. That's when Raymond Tierney and these other guys took over, and they finally put together a task force that was worth the shit, and they got the feds involved, and they were open and they were sharing information, and they really put together something that within I believe I'm trying to remember back. I believe within 2 or 3 months they had Rex Heuermann as a suspect after putting this task force together. That's how fucking corrupt everything was out in Suffolk County before this. A lot goes into that. Like I said, we're not going to get into that today. Okay, so let's get into the digital evidence, ladies and gentlemen. Oops, I got to get rid of your comment, Pete D. A detailed Exhibit A following Heuermann's arrest, numerous search warrants were executed at target residence, which culminated in, inter alia, the seizure of over 350 electronic devices. In the months subsequent to Heuermann's arrest, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force has attempted to extract and analyze data from each of these devices. An analysis of these devices has revealed Heuermann's significant collection of violent, bondage, and torture pornography, currently dating back to 1994. The pornographic images accessed by Heuermann include, but are not limited to, breast mutilation, vaginal torture, sex substitution, i.e. penetration with an object, the sexualization of decapitated women, bondage and whipping, which notably and largely coincide with how the remains of Sandra Costilla, Jessica Taylor, and Valerie Mack were discovered. See, they threw Valerie Mack in there. Keep in mind, she's not a part of this indictment. She's not in part of this indictment. She very well be added soon, as I mentioned earlier. Moreover, during the analysis of the hard drive recovered from the basement of Heuermann's residence, the Gilgo Homicide Task Force recently discovered a Microsoft Word document entitled HK 2002 to 2004. The document was discovered in unallocated space. Allocated space refers to stored data that a computer is using, files that are viewable and able to be opened and used. On the other hand, unallocated space refers to available or unstructured data, which is not readily viewable and able to be opened by a user. The forensic analysis of the HK 2002 to 2004 document reveals that it was not only a locally created draft, it was also recovered from a hard drive that indicates it was utilized by Heuermann himself. While the original document appears to have been created in 2000, based on its original title, HK, this iteration Word document titled HK appears to have been created and modified between 2001 and 2002.
Okay. The HK planning document begins with a 4-category section with the underlying headings of problems, supplies, DS, and TRG. So, guys, this is from Rex Heuermann's computer here. Problems, DNA, tire marks, bloodstains, fingerprints, plastic bag, cat litter, witness, trace source of supplies, foot, shoe prints, photos, misleaders, police stop, truck stuck, fingerprints and gloves, plastic bags match the box, hair and fiber. He should have put license plate on there. I guess he wasn't studying Joel Rifkin enough. His old neighbor, Joel Rifkin, over there out of East Meadow. Supplies, booties, lye, acid, police scanner, rope, cord, saw, cutting tools, hair nets, photo film, burn can, foam drain cleaner, body wash, wipes, tarps, drop cloths, medical gloves, bags, tape, large electrical clips, ratchet cargo strap. DS1, Mill Road. DS2, question mark, dumpster site. Next time, recon dumpster locations. T1, Megan. Could that be Megan Waterman? Small is good. T-Unk, black. Based on Gilgo Homicide Task Force training and experience, the members believe problems to be a guide on issue to avoid apprehension and supplies. I think you guys get it. Dump site. The DS heading appears to be an acronym for dump site, which is corroborated by inter alia the discoveries of Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor at 2 separate dump sites, the vicinity of Mill Road and Ocean Parkway. So you see right there, dump site 1, Mill Road. Okay. In note regarding dumpster sites, when the task force believes in a reference to how Heuermann disposed of physical evidence in the manner described, appears to reference the target victim. Oh, I went over that. Megan, we went over that. Mill Road. So we just talked about that. We spoke about Megan Waterman before. So then we have pre-prep, vehicle inspection, engage T1, recon, dump site 1, locate, dump site 2, weather report, recon vidcams, recon pick zone for vidcams, set up a stage, holding area, build tape, crossbar, hardpoint, post-event, destroy file. He misspelled destroy, change tires, burn gloves, dispose of picks, have story set. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force believed that pre-prep, so once again, I don't have to go into that. This is what they believe he was doing in order to plan these things, right? So then he has all this post-event stuff, take down, pick up, hunt too long, seen in the area too long. Remember, don't charge gas. Avoid cameras. He knows where all the cameras are. Excuse me. So body prep, wash body inside and all cavities, remove trace evidence, fingerprints, hair, remove trace DNA, remove ID marks, tattoo marks. So we know that he mutilated these bodies, and we know at least on one of them he attempted to remove these bodies, and we know that he's done this, and we're going to read this down here. And some of these Jane Does are only, associated with their tattoos, like Peaches, who we still don't know who that is, who is some people believe is tied to Rex. Wipe down everything you touch, dispose of box, plastic box. The body prep section above includes a note to remove head and hands, which clearly relates to the condition of Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack's remains. Once again, they're talking about Valerie Mack a lot in this superseding indictment. He has not been charged with Valerie Mack. So what does that tell you? That could tell you that that's coming soon. You can fucking guarantee it. Additionally, each of these victims' remains, as well as the remains of the Gilgo Report, were indeed packaged for transport. And this section indicates Miss Taylor's body, sharp linear injuries, victim skin. So they're talking about, all this mutilation and all this stuff is, every time I read some of this, they're just reiterating it in words, why they believe this and that. So what about Rex Heuermann's things to remember? Sound travels, bird outside. Control the amount of air in and out of control the noise made. Get sleep before hunt. Too tired, create problems. Hit harder, too many hit to take down. Consider a hit to the face or neck next time for the takedown. More sleep and noise control equal more play. Oh my God. More sleep and noise control equal more playtime. This is fucking sick. Use push pins to hang drop cloths from ceiling, not tape. Use heavy rope for neck. Light rope broke under stress of being tightened. Light rope broke under the stress of being tightened. Take down, pick up. Hunt too long, seen an area too long. Remember, don't charge gas. Recon for vid cams in pickup area next time. Once again, they're saying that this means it's in relation to this. Now this gets interesting too. Finally, the HK planning document on Heuermann's laptop computer includes a notes section, see embedded below. Notes, spur of the moment. Cover, Stockholm Syndrome. The more you do, the more clues you give. Look at the painting. What, why, who. Organized versus disorganized. PG1, Sex 2, sex substitution. PG163, PG175. Multition equal disorganized. Disorganized. It's like Taxi Driver when Travis Bickle says that poster that's in Taxi Driver. One of these days I'm going to get myself organized. The investigation to date has established the source of these notes. Mindhunter paperback book authored by John Douglas, specifically the first edition published in 1996 concerning the criminal profiling of serial killers. For example, the notes section of HK's planning document includes the following notation. Page 162, sex substitution. Page 163. Page 162 of the Mindhunter book does indeed reference sex substitution, as Douglas describes rather horrible sexual mutilation and masturbation over the victim's body, but no intercourse. The penetration with the umbrella and pen were acts of sexual substitution. So they're saying that he's referencing the book, and we're going to see the book, the Mindhunter book by Douglas. Page 175, multition, disorganized. Once again, 175, it mentions what Rex Heuermann is mentioning here. Look at the painting. What, why, who? On page 19 of said book, Douglas notes that while he was in the FBI, he always advised his agents, if you were to understand the artist, you have to look at the painting. I mean, I really don't know how, when you look at this, when you really this is why I wanted to do this, when you really, because I just skimmed through it. I wanted to find most of it out with you guys. When you really look at this, like, I don't know how a lawyer can get somebody out of this shit. I mean, this is just gets bizarre and more bizarre as we go on. And we have the book here. John Douglas, the foregoing corroborated part of Heuermann's possession of another serial killer book authored by John Douglas. During the initial search warrant execution in July 2023 as a target residence, the task force observed that Heuermann possessed in his home office the book entitled The Cases That Haunt Us. See embedded image below, which outlines the facts, evidence, and victimology of several notable murder cases. Okay, I need to take a break, and I want to see. You know what? I'm going to look at the comments, but you know what book Rex should have been reading? You know, when I sit at my table in my living room area to do these things, I don't do them in the office anymore because I want to set up a nice setup in there. I use like these hard-covered books to like prop up my microphone. But you know what book Rex should have been reading? I hate to say it. You fucked up, Rex. You see this book? That's probably the book that you missed out on. But I guess one does not always look at mafia books and say, serial killer. Let me look at the Sick Bastard, Had It Down to a Science. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jay Sid. He ordered one of my mugs for my website. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that, man. Glad you enjoy it. Did BTFP Phoenix, did they disclose how old these documents are? Like when he first created the file? Yeah, I'll go back to that. I believe it would be in the, I'll look at it again. I believe it's 2000. Douglas audiobooks. That's how he knew about organized serial killers and sexual sadists. He used it for research. Exactly. Really dark stuff. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, you know what, Phoenix, let me go back and let me just make sure these HK documents. Let's see what we got here. Gilgo homicide pre-prep. I thought I mentioned it. Yeah, 2000. These started creating in 2000. It says 2000. There's different ones. Phoenix from 2000, 2002, 2004. They span this thing. And you know what I'm waiting for them to mention here? These are so-called HK documents. I wonder if the HK planning document on Heuermann's computer. I wonder if this is a generated name or this is what he comes up with. I'm gathering that he comes up with this name, the HK documents. Because in case you guys don't know, I mean, and I'll bring it up. So just, and I don't even know if they're going to bring it up here. So the HK planning document. Yeah, I think this is the manner that is consistent with the notation in the HK planning document. So this is what I don't understand. Did anyone pick up on that? Whether because that is important if he called these things the HK documents himself. Let's see. Digital evidence. Okay. Analysis of the hard drive recovered from the basement of Heuermann's residence at the Gilgo homicide test. So recently discovered a Microsoft Word document entitled HK. Okay, so he named this himself. So they found it entitled. You know why that's interesting? And I'm going to see if they're going to mention it. And I'll show you why that is interesting. If I find it. I can't find it. Give me a second. Oh, that's it. We're through it. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We made it through. The Gilgo Homicide Task Force believes that the totality of circumstances surrounding HK planning document, and I had it wrong anyway, what I was thinking about, including Heuermann's attempt to delete its existence, points to it as Heuermann's self-education and homework on the topic of carrying out serial sexual murder. Heuermann's pointed concerns regarding avoiding being captured on video surveillance. Don't charge your gas. That's such a weird thing. Don't charge gas. Don't charge gas. Oh, don't charge gas. Oh, like use a charge card to get gas. I've been thinking this whole time, don't charge gas. Like, what the hell does that even mean? Don't use your credit card to get gas. Right. All right. So I think you guys, I think we made it through. I think you guys kind of got what was going on there. Woo! That was a marathon. Yeah, exactly. 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 Yeah, when they think they can delete files, they can't delete files, as proven here. Yeah, yeah. Donna T says, yeah, use cache. Yeah, use cache. Yeah. Internet is forever. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Evie Death, what's going on? How are you? How are you? Rodney Star, BTK, yeah, bind, torture, kill. I saw a recent photo of BTK. He does not look good. He looks very bad. And I think they are tying another murder to him, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he looks no bueno. He looks really bad. Rex is spiritually sick as hell. Yeah, he's sick. You know what? I mean, he's a lot worse than Mr. Berkey. I mean, Berkowitz was a fucking coward. I mean, just shoot and run. I mean, Rex is like as intimate as possible, as close as possible with another human being. The complete taking apart of human beings, scattering them. I think Rex, as far as methodology, his methods, brutal, absolutely brutal. Rex Heuermann is definitely not a Christian. No, not like Berkowitz. Not like Berkowitz. Not like Berkowitz. He hasn't been saved. He hasn't been. I don't think anything's going to save Rex. Rex is fucked. And once again, guys, ladies and gentlemen, you see them continuously mentioning Valerie Mack in that indictment. Continuously. So, let's just say spiritual health could have been better. Yeah. I think his all-around health probably could have been better. He's a real sick puppy. Rodney Stewart says, LOL Manny. IH Farmer 81. I know Heuermann hasn't been convicted yet, but I don't understand why these guys just don't fess up to all their victims when they're found guilty, unless there's so many that they forgot. Yeah. I mean, listen, they got him on 6. You could take it to the bank. Valerie Mack is coming at some point. That's going to be number 7. They're doing DNA still. These things take time. They're doing DNA still on the hairs that are found, and they're going to keep sending all this shit to labs. We don't know. All these bodies. We don't know which ones they have analyzed because they're not going to tell us. They're not going to tell us. They could have 10 hair samples from 15 different bodies right now that they're looking at to connect the wrecks, and we don't know about it. At some point, I believe we will, though. I believe we will, though. I want to know about the baby. We want to know about the young Asian man who was found, who maybe was some kind of cross-dressing prostitute or something, and that's something that could happen too. Rex thinks he's picking up, a nice, there's a nice little skinny Asian lady. Oh, let me try to pick her up. Turns out to be a man. You don't know how that goes down. He could have got so angry and did God knows what. When did he start? Best guess. Well, my guess right now is if you're talking about Rex, which I believe you might be, Cindy, my best guess right now is shit. Well, they're indicting him for 1 in 93. Is it safe to assume that maybe that's his first one? Or would you say that that's not his first one? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I suppose maybe the thing to do now, as maybe just like a little experiment, is to look at the brutality of Costilla's homicide in 1993. The victim is 28 years old at the time, was lying on her back with her arms outstretched over her head with uncovered legs spread apart. The victim's shirt had been pulled over her torso and head, exposing the victim's breast. The victim had numerous sharp force injuries to her face, torso, breast, left thigh, and vaginal area. Listen, does that sound like a first homicide to you? I don't know. These are things we could think about too. We could think about, do methods change over time? Is somebody that ballsy for their first homicide? How did he change his methods? Seems like he didn't change them that much because he was still dumping these bodies out there. Maybe he changed the locations, more desolate, I suppose. He got a little more in with the desolate locations, along these beaches and stuff like that. These kind of marshy, kind of side of the highway kind of beach spots. Yeah. So I don't know. We know right now it's at least 30 years, 31 years or so. He has a lot more bodies that's been discovered. Yeah, I believe so, Saudi Shabazz. I believe so. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in the dozens. Yeah. I really wouldn't be surprised if it was in the dozens. And you see what they're going to do, and what they're doing now. Of course, they're not talking about this, but logic would tell us this. What Raymond Tierney, the Gilgo Task Force, what these investigators of Suffolk County are doing now is what they've been doing. As soon as they started discovering that his family was out of town and Rex was on his own for many of these incidents, what they're doing is going through the family's whole entire history of vacation. And then they're going to match those vacation dates with the dates women were found, the dates that women went missing, and they're going to continue to do that, and they're going to continue to test this DNA, and they're going to keep the bodies. Unfortunately, logic tells us that the bodies will. I say unfortunately, but I also say fortunately, because these families need some closure, and we need to hope that happens with the advancements of this DNA, So unfortunately, the bodies will pile up for Mr. Rex Heuermann. Fortunately, the families will get some closure. That's the only thing that we can hope for. And with the latest DNA technology, it seems that that is quite possible that is going to happen. Yeah. Roro G, Cash App for 50. Thank you so much, Roro. If anybody would like to donate, there's a Cash App, or there's the Super Thanks option. All donations are much appreciated. Thank you so much, Roro. Thank you. I really appreciate that. What would I do without the great Roro G? The best. There it is, Roro G. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pete D. Appreciate that, brother. Let's see. Sad he figured his victims wouldn't be missed, just like Joel Rifkin. Yeah, it's crazy too, because it's like Joel Rifkin gets caught in 1993, I believe, right? I believe Rifkin gets arrested in 1993. So he gets arrested, and then what happens after he gets arrested? They start finding out all these more bodies on the line. Then Rex Heuermann starts working. John Biltroff starts working. They start kind of picking up this. It's crazy. It's almost like a mafia family, like or a mafia organization or a crime organization gets taken out. So what happens when that happens? What happens when a gang gets taken out or a mob thing gets taken out? There's a vacuum, right? So then another thing comes in, another entity takes over the racket, right? So it's like Rifkin went down. All right, well, here comes Rex Heuermann and Biltroff, two new Long Islanders who are going to start murdering sex workers. It's almost like there's no lull there. There's no break in it at all. It's just, so when you really start thinking about it, when we think about Long Island and sex workers on Long Island and sex workers in Manhattan, because Rifkin was doing abducting women from Manhattan as well, and he had done some bodies upstate as well. And I believe his first body was found on, I believe, a golf course in New Jersey was the first time they found a piece of one of Rifkin's work. Long Island guy, East Meadow guy, John Biltroff, a Long Island guy. So if you look at it, it's like, so from like the 1980s, right? From like the 1980s to into the 2010s, there was no break in Long Island. There was no time that you could say where sex workers were not getting murdered out in Long Island by individuals who are responsible for more than one. So like a serial killer, something like that. So when you start thinking about it like that, it's really wild. And I'm sure that it's was going on before that, unbelievable. And Rifkin ultimately went away for 17 homicides. 17. Yeah. Scott H. Yeah. If you believe that, I have a casino in Las Vegas called Caesar's Palace. It's up for sale. I'm currently the owner, and I'll give you a great deal on it, Scott H. I'll give you a tremendous deal on it. I want to go into something else that I was thinking of while I was reading that indictment. Then I want to get to some other things. So what I was thinking of in reading that indictment is, do any of these killers know each other? No, there's no evidence that any of them did. Yeah, I don't know. Rifkin is in prison currently. An older man, but not that old. I think Rifkin was born in the late 50s. So he's not like somebody, unless he's sick. Last I saw him, he looked fine. He's not somebody that is like dying of old age in prison. He's aging as one ages. And he's probably going to be around for a couple more decades or whatever, if things work out well for him. Yeah. So I don't know. Cindy. Can't say for sure. Oh, what I was going to say before. So when I was reading that stuff and I was looking at some of the stuff that Rex was looking into, some of the torture porn stuff and some of the weird like mutilation porn stuff, it reminded me of somebody that I interviewed on my channel. Oddly, it reminded me of an individual that I interviewed right here on NYC Crime Spot. And for those of you who don't know, the individual I'm talking about is Gilberto Valle. Some people call him Valle. Valle. This individual right here, Gilberto Valle. Oh, I couldn't put it. Oh, I thought I could put it in. So Gilberto Valle, who I interviewed on my channel, is known as the one time known as the Cannibal Cop. And they were going to hit him with for the homicide of his wife, and he was going to cannibalize her, and he was into all this weird like fetish stuff online and all this weird stuff. And his internet search history was rather bizarre. He was on all of these websites talking about, you know, fetishes with kidnapping and cannibalism and all these weird things. And he had this whole fantasy world that he built up for himself. And it came to a point where he was doing this, which he ended up getting off on this. It ended up being that he was just doing, well, in the eyes of the law, you know, he was doing role playing and this and that, but he was this close to just fucking being sent away for a very long time for the planned kidnapping and cannibalism of his wife. But when you start looking at his chat logs, it's extremely bizarre. But when you start looking at what he's talking about, yeah, I got these huge ovens in my apartment complex. They could fit a bunch of bodies. I got these cabins upstate, and all these. So he was talking about things they didn't have. There's no huge ovens in this apartment basement that he's cooking bodies in. There's no mountainside escape in the mountains of upstate where he uses it to cannibalize people. So basically, he invented this whole fantasy land for himself. And he never acted on any of it, but his wife found out what he was doing. She put some spyware on the computer that was recording all his keystrokes, and she rightfully became fucking horrified. And police got involved, and he became the cannibal cop, Gilberto Valle. And if you guys want to check on my channel, I had interviewed Gilberto Valle. He was on my channel. It was a big story at the time, very huge story. And the New York Post had a lot of fun with the story. There was a lot of funny headlines. Marky Mark, my man, 100%, 100%. What's going on, man? How are you? Glad to see you here. My man. Rupert? I think Rupert's going to make an appearance. Yeah, it's quite the story. Yeah, look it up. If you guys want to watch the interview, watch it. Or I'll go fuck myself. But yeah, check it out. Check it out. I'm cooling 100%. Good. Today's charges were for M in the second degree. Do you know why it wouldn't be in the first degree? Why it wouldn't be in the first degree? Why it wouldn't be in the first degree? Well, first degree is premeditated, right? Premeditated first degree homicide. Why are they second degree? So in New York State, well, let's see the difference. First degree versus second degree murder. New York State. Let me see what I got here. In New York, first-degree murder involves special circumstances, such as the murder of a police officer or witness to a crime, multiple murders, or murders involving torture. Under this system, second-degree murder is any other premeditated murder. So it's any other premeditated murder outside what I just read you. Yeah. So that's what it is. Rodney Stubbert, $6.99. Is that Canada? Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. Kudos to you. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated, sir. Thank you. Brett, I've been wondering about this case. It has Buffalo ties. Oh, yeah? Is that with Angelo? Those kind of Buffalo ties? Angelo and Sam? Ha! Sorry. Oh, there's Raro. Check out the video with the cannibal cop. Yeah, there you go. Check out my interview with the cannibal cop, Gilberto Valle. Gilberto Valle. Let me see. I'm going to go back up top. There's a couple of things I saw that I want to respond to, if y'all don't mind. Where the hell is it? Oh, Daniel Vizera. I didn't say that. The words that you say that I said never came out of my mouth. And that's what I wanted to respond to. Oh, one of his victims were from Buffalo. Okay. Which one? Which one? And of course, I played some clips of Rex earlier. I'm going to put the link to that video because it's hard to find. I don't know why. It's so hard to find.
It is hard to find. Here he is.
Last question.
Here he is.
Hammer.
He loves the hammer.
And it's actually a cabinet maker's hammer.
Cabinet maker's hammer.
Oh, okay. A cabinet maker hammer. Okay.
It is persuasive enough when I need to persuade something.
Not someone.
Something. And it always yields excellent results. Yeah. And at the end of the project, whatever piece of furniture or what I'm working on, it always helps it come out beautifully.
Okay, great. So you would be kind of that kind of hammer for your business? That's what you're saying? If that doesn't exist, that's what you would be?
Sometimes I have to be the heavy framing hammer.
The heavy framing hammer.
Other times I'm the lightweight hammer just to nudge things along.
All right. I guess it's a hammer. We got it.
The man, the myth, the peasant, Rex Heuermann. In the flesh. Cindy says, is that really him? Yeah, that's really him. That is Rex Heuermann being interviewed by a Frenchman who was running, I guess he does like real estate, architecture. Yeah, I think so, man. He was probably thinking about sick things when he was in. And that's part of a larger interview. I don't have the whole interview there. Oh, the one where they were saying he was calling the sister. Yeah, I don't know which one that was. Was that the Amber Costello one, Chris? The Amber Costello one is interesting because and there's a channel on YouTube. I don't know if they're uploading anymore. It's called Winter Brothers Stories or something like that. And on that channel was a guy that was running it that knew a lot about the case. And he had one of Amber Costello's friends on there. And if you guys don't know, one of the things Amber Costello and her friends would do is they would call Johns up to meet them, and then they would kind of like beat them up or jump them and steal money from them. And Rex was seemingly one of their marks at one point, and Amber Costello decided that she was going to meet with him again. That was the last time Amber Costello was ever seen, and it would be those individuals, two individuals in particular, one of them who's appeared on that channel I'm discussing, say that they remembered his car, and which they mentioned at the time. And they said that he looked like an ogre. They said he looked like an ogre because Rex Heuermann is a very big man. He does, in fact, look like an ogre. You know what I can do, guys? I could kind of skim through that whole video. It's probably still on my YouTube history because I want to show you the size of this man, because he stands up at some point in this video towards the end of it. I just have to find it. Crazy. It's like it's gone already. It's like it's gone, ladies and gentlemen. This video is so hard to find. I just don't understand why. Give me a second. I want you guys to see it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Okay. Oh my God. All right, guys. 1 second. I'm going to have to type this in because la interview with Rex. La interview. And it's still not coming up. I'm literally typing the name of the video. La interview with Rex Heuermann. All right. He's like 6'6", 300 pounds. He's like 6'7". Wrong over to rip off. What up, Brett? Shout out David Price. What's going on, man? How are you, buddy? I want to try to get this. I really want to get this. I want to show you guys this thing. Let me go home. Back to my history. All right, there it is. There it is. I finally was able to bring it up. Okay. So let me escape. Let me lower this. All right, you guys ready? I'm gonna put this up, and then we could go through a little bit. Go through it, people. All right, so here we go.
One. Today on interview, Rex Heuermann. owner of RH Consultant,
There's
a
Rex.
Department
You
of
can
Building
email him if you want.
facilitator. Let's go meet him.
Hey, bonjour, realty production.
Rex.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Likewise. I hope you don't mind. I brought my assistant with me, Norman.
Hello, Norman. I see it's raining out.
Yes,
Shall
it's
we go to the
raining. Yeah.
table?
This size is fine.
Please. Okay.
I know. You said you like to do this outside, but Mother Nature is not cooperating
Yeah,
today.
to say the least, I tell you that. Being in your office, all right?
I wasn't looking forward to doing this under a scaffold.
I can understand. Okay, anyway, let's dive in. So, tell us, who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been in New York.
Okay. Rex Heuermann. I'm an architect. I'm an architectural consultant. I'm a troubleshooter. Born and raised on Long Island.
Okay.
Been working in Manhattan since 1987.
Oh, wow.
Very long time.
Okay. So this brings directly to my first question. So, can you explain to our...
Yeah, Manny. That's what I was telling you guys before when you guys were saying that Rex was acting funny and this and that, and that guy was, like I said, even the interview is funny. I mean, he's like, oh, everything is funny to him. Even when it's not funny, it's funny to him. He's one of those guys. We've all kind of met people like that where, they're all like, oh my God. Okay, let's go back to it.
Audience, what is it that you do? Not the architect part of your business, but the other part of the business, which is, it's my understanding that you're kind of a facilitator with the Department of Building. Is that correct? But please tell us.
That's correct, but much more.
Okay.
That's
much more I'm interested.
I do troubleshooting, architectural troubleshooting, and negotiations with the building department.
Okay.
What I mean by that is, do we do the standard stuff with the building department? Handle your filings. I have other clients who are a lot of other architects, and we'll handle their interactions with the building department.
Yeah.
Especially out of city architects, because they're a little afraid of the city. And when a job that should have been routine suddenly becomes not routine, I get the phone call.
Gotcha.
Whether it's an old building and they need somebody that understands and can maneuver the 1938 building code, or the current building code. You look surprised when I say 1938 building code. I've actually used the 1901 old tenement laws here in the city of New York, and you can legally do so.
Oh, wow.
That's one of the little things that
you do.
People don't always understand when it comes to building codes.
Yeah.
They never read the administrative section.
So what decided you to launch that particular, I would say, a niche of a business? Was it because out of frustration on your side as an architect? You say, I can't believe, I didn't think about that. Let me dive into it and let me try to maybe make it a business out of it? Or was just, you just decided to do it?
Actually, it was Harvey's fault.
Of who?
In 1987, when I came to work in the city, the first architect I worked for was Harvey Rosenberg.
Okay.
Great man.
Harvey Rosenberg, the Harvey Rosenberg? The Harvey Rosenberg, Chris DeMeo, the Harvey DeMeo, Chris Rosenberg, Harvey? Did he work? No, obviously not. Just kidding.
That year, a new law came out. Local law 58 of 87.
Okay.
That's all the handicap.
Is that a joke, Manny? Harvey Rosenberg? Oh, Harvey the talking dog.
Access.
Okay.
They said, you're the new guy, you read it. So I read it. There was a situation dealing with the city. They said, well, go meet with the city. I did. I was effective at it. He said, go do it again.
Oh, that's funny.
And that's how the whole thing started.
Okay.
And he did a lot of work with not-for-profit agencies
Okay.
for developmentally disabled. So that's where I started doing a lot of my building code consultant with him, as well as the design and drawings for these facilities. And the one thing I learned very quickly was the building department could not understand them.
Couldn't understand what? Their own codes?
Their own codes, their own laws, because you have what we would call a group home for developmentally disabled.
Okay.
It doesn't exactly fit the code book. And the plan examiners who work for the building department didn't fully understand it. So part of my job became educate the city.
So you educate the city about their own code.
Correct.
That has been, our laws.
That's been something we've been doing ever since, and we still do today.
So you started with a firm, and then when you decided to launch your own, you decided, let me continue that route of the consulting. Is that correct?
That's basically correct.
Yeah.
But the way it all happened was a recession in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to figure out who to work for.
Yeah.
And that's when I met my very, very first paying client, Robert Meyer.
Robert Meyer, okay.
I'm in the Queens building department. It's before lunch. I want to get to lunch. Back in those days, you had to physically stand in line with your paperwork because this predated the computer system.
Yes.
And he was dealing with the clerk at the certificate of occupancy counter, didn't know what he was doing. I'm getting impatient. I go, excuse me, took his paperwork, explained to the clerk what he needed, then explained to him what he needed to do, then move over. Then I took care of what I needed to do. He was standing off on the side.
Rules, or they try to rush things? Is that what is basically most of the reason why people are
I don't know why they thought, let me just throw this guy playing fucking sax or trumpet in the middle of it. I don't know. And David, just to go to your comment with the swinger thing, that's the lawyer that used to represent Shannon Gilbert's family, and maybe someone else. That guy, I don't know if that guy's nuts or he really believes what he says or what he's doing, but he's not well liked by prosecutors, let's say. And he is the one that came out recently, did a press conference of, I don't know, towards the end of last year or whenever it was, and with the swinging and the hooker parties and Rex, and his wife was there with the hooker parties and all this other stuff. I don't know what to think about that. That's coming from that lawyer, once again, who is a bit of an eccentric, an odd guy, and like I said, not well liked by investigators. Now, that could be a good thing sometimes. Maybe he's not liked because he's doing something that whatever, But in this case, I don't know if it's a good thing. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's a good thing. Let me go back to what Ricky Bobby 420 refers to as the giggling Frenchie. Let's go back to that.
Contacting you for?
I would say the biggest reason, they're overwhelmed by the city. They're overwhelmed by the size, complexity of the building department.
Yeah.
And whether it's a restaurant, a place of assembly, a 40,000 square foot retail that we did last year, or somebody's co-op, or it's their mother's co-op and she passed away and there's an old application that's 20 years old that nobody addressed that they have to solve to sell it. People get very overwhelmed, not just by the agency and how to deal with the agency, but the complexity of, we got plumbing work, structural work, construction work. There was mechanical work done. There's a list of requirements, 20-something things long in the computer. What do we do?
Okay. So tell me, is this part of the, because you're an architect, is this part of the business has outgrown your?
What's with the scarf too, dude? Come on, get rid of that fucking scarf, dude. Stop it. What is with the scarf? That's like that fake picture of Lenny Kravitz when they made his scarf look like half the size of his body. Have you ever seen that photo? I die laughing every time I see it. But yeah, come on already. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we in fucking Saudi Arabia over here? What is this?
Architect business, or it's starting taking over, or what?
Sometimes it's the majority.
Really? Yeah. That's
sometimes it's 50-50 with architecture, depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
On the architectural side, having all of these capabilities in-house gives me an advantage over other people, because I have my own staff.
Yeah.
Most architects will go to an outside consultant.
Like yours?
No, not like mine, called an expediter.
Ah, okay. Okay. That's what the
expediter, they understand how to file, they understand the administrative procedures. Where I exceed that is I have the license to practice architecture. So when I go to the city, I can tell them how I feel and what I think they should do. And I do that. An expediter can't do that because they work at the pleasure of the city.
Yeah.
I don't.
Understand. Yeah. So, after all those years, what do you think is the most important qualities a person in your position dealing with the DOB must have?
Patience.
That's funny. I was hoping you would say that.
Yeah. Patience, and I don't like to use the word tolerance, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
And it's not just with the city, it's also with the client, because most clients, they don't understand what I have to do, why I have to do it, and what it takes to get done.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with somebody in the city, whether it be a clerk at the counter who has to enter data entry, or if I'm dealing with the borough commissioner of Manhattan, you need the patience, because who knows what the person before you did. Sometimes they have very bad days.
Yeah.
I've actually gone to the commissioner's office, sat down in his waiting area at 11:30 in the morning, and a little after 5 o'clock, I heard him finally holler out, "Is Rex still there?" That's how long I waited.
Oh, God.
Because that particular client, I had to see the commissioner. They were the only ones who could give us an answer.
Okay, got it. Oh, John, so this is a perfect segue. Do you have a story where the situation, and we don't need names, but do you have a story where situation seemed, very, very doomed, but you were able to deliver at the end? Do you have a good success story to tell us?
There are so many different ways
I'm sure
looking at it.
But you have one.
Only one.
Okay.
One of the first ones to come to mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was a building downtown Manhattan.
Okay.
They put a generator on the roof. Typical generators go on roofs all the time.
Okay.
Except the fuel lines to feed the generator will run through the exit stair. Let's see. Pumping diesel fuel through an exit stair, that generally is not a good idea.
This doesn't sound very safe to me.
No.
And I'm not even in your field.
And we're talking a 20-something story building.
Even better.
The architect who I was working with at the time, I called him, didn't answer. I called him 4 or 5 times. He finally picks up the phone because he happened to be at Passover dinner. And I told him what was going on. All I got was dead silence, then the, "Oh my God."
Oh my God,
now,
oh my
you would
God.
think, how do you
God,
solve this without
you
tearing everything apart?
Exactly. Yeah.
Meet with the commissioner of Manhattan Building Department, and I start negotiating how to do this.
Okay.
And I got very creative with first you have to address, I got flammable liquid, combustible liquid in my stair. Not good. Can I separate it from the stair?
Okay.
That was question one. Second question is, do you still have enough room for the legal means of egress in the stair? Because you have to maintain minimum widths, minimum capacities to get everybody out.
Yeah.
So this became a mixing of building code, negotiation, the use of modern products to achieve all of this. And in the end, the pipe stayed.
The pipe stayed.
They stayed. I achieved a 4-hour separation from the stair using autoclaved aerated concrete block construction.
And on the Chinese to me, but I'm sure.
And on the horizontal run, I used a 3M product to achieve the fire rating. So it became a mix of art and science and the understanding of the code to make it
art
work.
and science.
And that's what I applied to each job. I actually just purchased a copy of the 1922 building code.
Oh,
because I'm dealing with a building that was built in the late 20s, but it's not yet under the 1938 code. So I'm in that slack water between 22 and 38, and I need to prove that the condition was legal at that when I do, and the different buildings of time frames.
I'm just going to forward it. Then he talks about the hammer that I showed you guys earlier, but I want to show you when they stand up next to each other.
Heavy framing hammer?
The heavy framing hammer.
Other times I'm the lightweight hammer just to nudge things along.
All right. I guess it's a hammer. We got it. That's it, folks. That was Rex, owner, founder of RH Consultant. So if you have any building regulatory issues, please contact him. He's probably going to solve your issues, okay? Guys, you know the drill. Comment, share, like, subscribe. Subscribe, very important. But in the meantime, it's
selfie time.
Selfie time. You're fast. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Can you smile?
That is.
Woo! What do you guys think? What do you guys think about that? And just so you guys know, well, I look crazy with this lighting right now. My God, it's hot as hell. Just so you guys know, like that guy after that was interviewed about the interview. So, YouTuber who interviewed Rex Heuermann says suspect serial killer had a very imposing. Let me see. I'll just play this real quick. So, listen, maybe we can give this guy a break a little bit because I don't know. You know what it is? You know what that giggling is sometimes? And like I said, I've had people like that. Yeah, giggling like a schoolgirl, Sadia. Yeah, I agree. But I think that happens with some people. Now, listen, the guy's a little bit of a dweeb. He's a bit of a nerd. I think he probably loves what he's doing so much. He's so into architecture. He so wants to be like this polite guy, and he just loves what he does. So it's like, oh, he has to like overcompensate with like this weird dorky attitude. So there's like a 2-minute clip I can play of him commenting on it if you guys want to see that. It's anxiety, Ricky Bobby says. Yeah, maybe it is. Nervous laughter. I also think he does enjoy what he does. I mean, despite being a bit of a doofus, you know. So let's look at this. Let's look at this. Let's get this bigger. Okay.
Sent shockwaves through a quiet Long Island neighborhood as police swarmed the suspect's home.
CBS 2's Dick Brennan went to Massapequa Park to get reaction from some very stunned neighbors.
Into the night, people in Massapequa Park did their best to get a glimpse of the home of the suspected serial killer.
I was there the next morning.
Living right in their midst.
It's creepy, really. I mean, if you look at the house, I mean, he kind of stands out, but it's creepy. It's weird.
It's a quiet town. Everyone knows each other. Nothing really goes on. So it was just surprising to hear and kind of scary. I was like, holy crap. Unbelievable right now, town.
James Pagano couldn't believe when he heard the name of the suspect because he went to high school with Rex Heuermann.
He was very quiet, dark, kept to himself, and extremely intelligent, very smart.
So just who is Rex Heuermann? He grew up on Long Island, but he worked in Midtown, an architect who ran a company called RH Consultants and Associates.
How you doing? Good to see you.
YouTuber Antoine Amira, who runs a page called Bonjour Realty, interviewed Heuermann about his work a year ago.
What does this job taught you about yourself?
I think it's taught me more about how to understand people.
Really what stood out is his attention to details. He was very knowledgeable, very detail-oriented.
Amira told us Heuermann had a distinct physical presence.
Intimidating, no. Imposing, yes. Very, very imposing. He is a head above me, a very large person. I still remember.
Oh my God, he looked like he was holding in the laughter.
Very strong.
He wants to laugh so bad.
Wow.
A very strong handshake.
Oh
it
my
was
God, he
like
wants to laugh
you
so
were
bad.
shaking like a very thick piece of marble. That's how strong his hand was.
CBS 2 was outside Heuermann.
Oh my God. Did you see that? He wanted to laugh so bad. He couldn't help himself. He wanted to laugh. He was holding it and he was like, "Is very imposing. Is it imposing?" That is nuts. I think the interview was secretly practicing for his audition at the MC in Cabaret. Massapequa, where the Baldwins are from, and what's his name went to school with Rex Heuermann. Which Baldwin? Not Alec, not Steven. So who do we have left? Daniel and Billy. I think it's who's the one from Backdraft? Who's the one that's not like a fat fucking mess? Whatever one is not a fat mess outside of Alec Baldwin and Stephen Baldwin, that's the brother that went to school with him, who was in the same class with him, because he spoke about it after it happened. And there was like a picture. There's like a group picture, and you see one of the Baldwin brothers, and then a couple of people back. There's Rex Heuermann. Yeah. Massapequa, Heuermann, DeMeo, and Baldwin. Heuermann, Roy DeMeo, and Baldwin, the Lamb D of killers. Baldwin. Oh, yeah. Well, Alec Baldwin. Yeah, I guess he did kind of kill somebody, didn't he? I guess he did kind of kill somebody. The scarf speaks volumes. Yeah, we got fucking Nicky Scarfo over here. Scarf Inc. over here. How you say he swung a big hammer. Yeah. He ain't giggling now. No, he's not giggling now. That's for sure. I was even freaked out. Listen, I don't live in Massapequa, but I was freaked out because if you look at them, he lives at Rex Heuermann's address. Let's see, my poison brain. Let me pull out his address. 105 First Avenue. I think his address is 105 First Avenue in Massapequa. Now, I actually go to Massapequa Preserve, which is like a few blocks from Heuermann. I've been there like a shit ton of times. I go there, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a year or whatever. And even just that, like a few blocks from where I was going to the preserve all the time, fucking Heuermann was living it up right there, you know? So even that is kind of weird. So it's just like, you never know. Actually, Rex Heuermann is on Google Images. You guys ever seen that? Rex Heuermann on Google Images? I actually made a thing on my channel for it. I'll show it to you guys. Yeah. Rex Heuermann on Google Images. Where is it? I got it somewhere. Whoa, that's not the clip that I want. All right, so here's Google Images. It's a video on one of my shorts. Look, hey, who's that? Rex Heuermann on Google Images, right by his office. Look at that. So I got in the beginning, zoom in. There he is. Rex Heuermann, Google Street View 2023. He didn't know this was going to be his last year on the streets at that Do not. Oh, I'm not even sharing that? Am I not even sharing that? Holy shit, that's embarrassing. All right, now I'm sharing it. Wow, that was bad. So you guys see this? See Rex? See you, Donna T. Have a good night. That's Google Images 2003. Yep. Yep. There it is. A Puente says Seinfeld also comes from Massapequa. We should check his background history. His background history, yeah, wasn't he like dating a 17-year-old when he was like 40? I mean, that's kind of weird. Don't you think? All right, guys, I'm gonna call it a night. I think I'm sweating. I look crazy right now. I should have put the light on here, but I'm gonna call it a night. We've been 2 hours in. We covered everything that's going on with Mr. Rex Heuermann. He's been indicted for 2 more homicides. He's already been indicted. Let's recap really quick before I hit the road. He's already been indicted for these 4: Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, known as the Gilgo 4. He has now been indicted for the murder of Sandra Castillo, occurring in 1993, pushing Rex's murder spree potentially back 30 years if they can prove he did this. Then we have the 2003 homicide of one Jessica Taylor, found out in Manorville in 2003. I'm sorry, did I say Castillo was 1993? Right. Jessica Taylor, 2003, 10 years later, found out in Manorville. 8 years after that, in 2011, more of her remains would be found at another location in Long Island. He's been charged with both of these homicides, bringing the total to 6. And as I mentioned earlier, and as they mentioned continuously in this new superseding indictment, they continuously mentioned Valerie Mack's name. If you look at the press conference from today with Suffolk County District Attorney Raymond Tierney, he's asked by a reporter if Rex could be considered a suspect or of interest in Valerie Mack. And Raymond Tierney said, yeah, I would say that's safe to say. So I think it is safe to say that that is going to be the next one that is coming down the pike. Pike? Is it pipe or pike? Coming down the pike? Coming down the pipe? I think it's pike. You guys could let me know before I go. I think a lot of people don't know which one that is. Is it a pike or a pipe? It's coming down the what? Ew, the ogre. Yeah. A special place in hell for guys like Rex. Yeah. And listen, he's a suspect at this point. He's not been found guilty. I guess we'll keep some level of professionalism. However, looking at that indictment and looking at the previous indictment, if you guys want this stuff, I have it. Email me, nyccrimespot@gmail.com. I could send you this one. I could send you the first indictment. Like a turnpike. Thank you, Baked Light Blonde. Thank you. Good to see you, by the way. Thanks for hanging around. Pike, yeah. I thought it was Pike, but like golfing down the pipe. Yeah. Listen, everyone I know kind of doesn't know what it is either. I hear pipe all the time. Coming down the pipe. I said, all right, whatever. It's a pipe. It's a pike. It is whatever. I know what you're saying either way. DNA does not lie. All right, everybody. Listen, I'm going to break out of here. We've been here for over 2 hours. I think this was a cool show. Very awesome. Strong Island's finest, my man. What's going on? Checking in late as always. Should be a good one. Thank you, brother. Yeah, I think it was a good one. I hope everybody enjoyed. Saudi Shabazz, thank you so much for hanging out. Have a good night. Ducks, Tony Ducks. See you, my man. Strong Island's finest. See you, David Price. Pete D, good to have you back. Ricky Bobby 420, thank you so much. Cindy Birch, thank you. Thank you so much for hanging out. David Price, thank you again, my man. That means a lot. Big Light Blonde. Who else? Darren Cassidy, BX, Rodney Stubert, A20, thank you so much. IH Farmer 81. Everybody. Have a good. Oh, how could I forget BTF Phoenix? Oh, Phoenix, you know what? I'm so sorry. I forgot. Phoenix actually gave a $4 super chat before. Thank you so much for Phoenix. She says, I won't say this is for scratchies, but I got to see. I can get a couple of win for lives maybe. Thank you, Phoenix. That means a lot. I appreciate it. Rodney Stewart, thank you so much also for the $6.99. Roro G, thank you so much for the Cash App. That means a lot. Everybody, it means a lot that you hang out. Donate, don't. It's fine. I love that everybody's here. It is awesome. And let me get rid of that. Let me go back to the live. All right, Puente, good night. One more Pike for Sadia. Thank you. Good night, Sally. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you being here. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. I'll try to come back soon. And G Ruby Almighty. How could I forget you? Thank you so much. Have a good night. All right, everybody. Peace.